lieutenant in the New York City Fire Department.
And it's been established that he knows something about apparatus.
Yeah, he knows a lot about
that correctly?
apparatus, yeah.
Something.
A little bit, or
Just a little. Yeah.
So he's on the apparatus committee for the fire department here. He also has a business where he teaches people apparatus operations and a business where they help departments spec out new apparatus. So among the four of us, I don't think anyone would mind us saying he's the smartest of the four. So direct all your questions.
That's way over.
That's a very sad statement.
That's not a real high bar there.
Actually, it is.
For me and Kevin.
Actually, I feel quite surrounded by brain power.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's how sad that is.
yeah, no, I'm in good company here.
What do you want to ask?
So we're here to answer your questions. If you have any questions about apparatus.
Well, what I thought I would do is, like I did yesterday, and just kind of start out with maybe a little overview of what's going on with apparatus. And I see you have a list. Maybe you can add to your list. Some things that we know. We know that from 2007 back 30 years, that the U.S. consumed 5,500 new fire trucks a year. Okay, that was the market share. So when you go to the FDIC and all these places and see all the fire truck manufacturers, they are fighting over 5,500 trucks a year. In 2008, just like the economy, the bottom dropped out of fire truck sales, and they struggled to build 3,800. Actually, it was 2008, 2009. And in this fiscal year, they're going to struggle to build 3,300. With that said, none of the big players in this, or not any of the players, have really gone out of business. And so if you are looking to buy new trucks, you need to be extremely careful as to who you're going to do business with. Even some of the biggest names may not necessarily be on sound financial footing and may not necessarily be around when it comes time to service your truck or do warranty work or even provide parts for that truck. So to those ends, what we are counseling people to do is get 3 pieces of paper when you order a truck. One is a Dun & Bradstreet, and that is a financial prospectus on the company that you're going to do business with. And the idea is simply this. Take somebody like a Piers Oshkosh Trucks. They're still making money, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. So why would you want to get a Dun & Bradstreet from them? Well, God forbid something happens 8 months into your build or 8 months into your ownership, and somebody says, well, you guys didn't know? And you can say, yeah, I got a Dun & Bradstreet. At the time that we signed on with them, they seemed to be pretty financially sound. Something must have happened. Don't put this on us. Put it somewhere else. So you're kind of protecting yourself and your town and for very little cost. The other 2 pieces of paper are bid bonds and performance bonds, okay, that are going to assure that whoever signs on with you is basically going to do what they say they're going to do, for what they say they're going to do it for.
Talk about prepaying the chassis. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
Prepaying
anything. Some people poo-poo that idea as being terrible. It's not necessarily so. But what you do want to do is put safeguards in there to protect you and your community and the fire department. When you order a truck, you get done with your pre-construction conference, the truck goes into order mode. An engine from Cummins may go to the manufacturer 3 months before they ever start to build your truck. That's delivered to that manufacturer 30 days net. In other words, the manufacturer has 30 days in which to pay for that engine. So here we have an engine that costs $20,000 sitting on the floor for another 60 or 90 days waiting for all the parts to come together to build your truck. Time is money, and parts are money, and the whole thing is money. Some manufacturers offer some pretty significant discounts in price if you can pay for some of this and think about building a house. And I think you're going to see more of this as time goes on. Nobody's going to build you a house and not require some kind of money along the way. Pretty much, this is kind of like it is for this part of fire trucks. You get your chassis completed, And you can pay for it as long as the manufacturer is willing to give you ownership of it. Okay? So whether it's a letter or whether it's actually the registration, when you deal with chassis manufacturers such as Freightliner or International or HME or Spartan, you should be able to get the title to that before the bodybuilder puts any kind of body on it. So at least you have something for your money. So if the bodybuilder goes out of business, you can take your chassis back home, you own it, and you can get somebody else to put a body on it, and then if you have your bid and performance bonds, that's going to help you a great deal. In the case of a company called New Lexington, it was what I refer to as a third world builder. If you're buying a truck from them, you didn't have a lot of money to start out with. Well, they took money from 18 fire departments for chassis, and then they took delivery of chassis from Navistar and from Freightliner and from HME and from Spartan. And instead of paying for those chassis with that money that the fire departments gave them, they used it to run their business. And the business was kind of like a Ponzi scheme, and it was kind of a Bernie Madoff house of cards. And when it all collapsed, the fire departments ended up with no money, and they ended up with their chassis repossessed by those vendors that had built the chassis because they weren't paid for.
So if those guys had taken title when they were delivered, would they have been protected?
Right, had they taken title of that chassis before they paid New Lexington for them, they would have had ownership of those chassis. And of course, the only way they could have gotten title is if New Lexington had paid the vendors for those to free up the title. So yeah.
And if we do that, we also have to put them on our insurance rolls, I would assume, as well. Take the worst case scenario, the factory burns down, it's not their asset. I guess that's more of a question, not a statement. It didn't come out right.
Yeah, I would want to consult with an attorney with that for sure. I know when we did a pumper back in '91, we saved $31,000+ and that was the difference between being able to build this rescue pumper or not. So we did some pretty creative financing, and as long as you're smart about it, the idea is you just can't walk up to somebody and give them 200 grand for something and then not get any kind of guarantee in return, and that's what a lot of departments will do. And in this climate where the market is down by 40% on best days, there are people building trucks right now that you would consider maybe good quality builders that are teetering on the edge of extinction. And you don't want to get caught up in any of that legalese. So, you want to do that, you want to bless you. You want to take ownership of the chassis. The other thing I will tell you that's out there now, kind of news, and it just hit again the other day, it had been contemplated. The president last Tuesday signed a bill that the EPA is going to be screwing with fire trucks again. Okay. They were going to anyway.
Was that the title of the bill, Mike? The fire truck screwing with the bill?
The president screwing with the fire truck. That was the title of the bill.
Initiative of 2000.
They're to bend over.
Right.
Yeah, once again, if history is any predictor, the last time that the EPA and the NFPA got involved around the same time, the cost of the truck rose about $30,000. In this case, in 2014, any new trucks have to meet a new round of fuel consumption standards and also emission standards. And fire trucks, again, are not exempt. The other caveat to that is in 2015, we've been told, and it should have been 14, but those that we know on the NFPA 1901 committee have said that they're going to put it off another year and try to go off the standard 5, maybe even 5.5. And the NFPA 1901 revision will take effect January 1st of 2015. So you have the EPA in 2014, you have the NFPA in 2015. So from a cost avoidance point, you want to have signed contracts and have something ordered potentially before January 1, 2014 to avoid all of this catastrophe. As it relates to just cost avoidance in general, all the fire truck manufacturers raise their prices January 1st. Okay, so if you can get sign contracts in place by, say, December 1st, you will pay 4 to 6% less for the same truck versus signing contracts after January 1st. Bolt for bolt, nut for nut. Our understanding is, because we're kind of in the know, that because of competition, because of the tightness of budgets, that many costs are going to be absorbed by manufacturers this year, and that out of this general average 4 to 6% price increase, it may only be 2 or 3% this year. But even when you're talking about a $1.2 million aerial tower, 2 or 3% is still a significant amount of money. So anytime you're in the process, if you can go to bid, get specs done by September, go to bid in October, get bid packages back by November, review them, and get contracts signed by December, you're saving yourself and your town and your taxpayers a good chunk of money those days. So that's just the kind of what we know now as an overview that we kind of did yesterday of things that are going on that are pretty pertinent right now, and just stuff to be aware of before you plunge in. So we'll take any questions.
Do you recommend going with a builder that does everything instead of piecemealing parts from all over the place? We had an issue in Ottawa where we got Spartan Ottawa, Canada. We got Spartan chassis for our ladders, and it was the bid was given to a company called Carl Thibault, and he ordered. Or part 3.
They kind of keep coming and going.
They do.
He ordered in, well, I mean, it was all, I guess, come down to our specs, but we learned a lot from this. But he got the aerials from RK, and he built the compartments around it. So we had issues with guys saying that the outriggers in the back were coming off the ground and stuff, and we didn't really get a proper user manual from him, because now we've learned that it wasn't in the specs. So we've learned a lot, but so we had the thing set up, and the outriggers down, set up, and we had the owner of RK there, and we had 3 mechanics up in the basket, and then the owner was like, he was walking up, he was halfway up the ladder, and then it teetered on the front on the outriggers, and dropped the front wheels to the ground, and the back outriggers came off by a foot off the ground. So we were pretty worried about the whole balancing of the trucks. So the trucks were out of service for about 8 months until we could figure out, why this was happening. And then now, I mean, we've had the proper training, and the wheels stay on the ground, and there's a whole thing about setting them up uphill or downhill and stuff like that. But not to give you the whole 3-month story, but now they're set up with the wheels on the ground, and now they're very stable trucks. I mean, it came down to a real practice setup deal. But I mean, I'm just wondering, do you go with something like, you recommend going with something like E1 or Pierce, where it's done from like frame right to the end of the line, or something where it's brought in a bunch of different pieces?
Yeah.
One word answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No. You're not getting away that easy. No, not on this point. Because in my company, on my website, I'm getting 3, 4, 5 emails a month from people just like you, and I'm getting tired of it. Okay, the reality is, first off, let's go through history. There are no fire truck builders anymore. Okay, a real fire truck builder was a LaFrance or a Seagrave that built the engine, that built the brakes, that built the rear ends, that built everything in-house back in the 40s and 50s. That no longer exists. What we have now are fire truck assemblers, where they take parts from all over half hell's 100 acres and overseas, and an engineering group from that factory tries to make them monolithic and act as one. Okay, that's a pretty tall order, particularly with all the electronics and multiplexing that goes on. Now, you, in your situation, compounded all those issues by having a chassis builder and that engineering group design a chassis, and aerial group design their aerial separate from the chassis, although they knew that it was going on the chassis, and then you had him as a bodybuilder. Okay, no good can come of this. Okay, it just can't. First off, you gotta hope that 3 people now stay in business. You gotta hope for the long term so you can get parts and keep your truck on the road for the next 20 or 25 years. And that often doesn't happen. You look at, I'll take the less than an hour from here in New Jersey. They bought a Spartan 3D metal body AI aerial.
2 strikes out of 3.
2 out of the 3 people aren't even in business anymore, and the truck's 6 years old. What do you do now? And what happened is they bought a chassis in Michigan, then they bought the aerial, then they bought the body. This thing had more miles on it than a Texas cold girl, and they didn't even run a fire with it yet. And then they get it home, and it has an electrical problem. Well, everybody in the industry has electrical problems. Electronics have completely overwhelmed the fire truck industry. The same people putting widgets together 20 years ago for 15 bucks an hour are the same ones now trying to put computers and make them work together. And some have done a fairly good job because those manufacturers have trained the people, and others have not had as much success. So it depends on who you get. But the reality is, so what happens if you, even in your situation now?
So Mike, could they put something in a future spec that says, because I mean, like you say, nobody builds their own engines anymore, nobody builds their own transmission.
You put in the spec that you want a sole source manufacturer that is going to build the chassis and the aerial and the body within the same confines.
So another way you might go around purchasing too, I'm not sure if it's legal in Canada, but in the US, you could do an RFP where you don't have to buy the cheapest vehicle. So you do a request for proposals. So you lay out your spec, they bid on that spec, and then you score that response.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing.
That's way better, because it gives you much more freedom. A straight bid spec, you gotta buy the cheapest one, no matter what, and you have a hell of a time fighting your way out of the cheapie if there's a problem. But so in our city, usually price is 48% of the grade, and then there's compliance with the specs, and you can put some other stuff in that matters. And really, given relatively equal pricing, you get the truck that you really want every time with an RFP, rather than using a straight bid.
The other thing that we've had some success, at least in New York State, with, and we didn't even know for a long time that it was legal. We had one department that we worked with outside of Albany, the state capital, and they were buying a rear mount tower. Well, they didn't care whether they got an E1 or a Pierce. So they took an E1 spec, tuned it up to make it look pretty like they wanted it, and then they took a Pierce spec. And they threw them both out at the same time. There's no exceptions, there's no nonsense, and they had 2 bidders at least bidding on their project. And for that dealership in central New York that was a Pierce dealer at the time, that was the best bid package he ever put together. He put together one hell of a truck for one hell of a price. They got a really, and then the idiots ended up buying the E1 anyway. After we told them not to, so go figure. Taste is all in your mouth, but that's another whole.
I think too that, apparatus salesmen love you a long time until they get the PO.
They're like used car salesmen.
I wouldn't say the bad thing about used cars.
Yeah.
So please do yourself a favor. Get a truck that you can pick up the phone one time and call somebody and get somebody to come and fix it, and not have this trilogy or day after day. It's just a nightmare.
So Mike, talk about the New York City warranty though. I'm not sure if you guys were in the thing when he talked about it yesterday. He didn't talk about it in the session, but it's cool.
We have a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty on all of our trucks here in the city of New York. Our mechanics don't, with the exception of preventive maintenance, which is scheduled quarterly and done, our mechanics don't touch the trucks for the first 5 years of life. Some bean counter down in the Office of Management and Budget has figured out that it's cheaper to pay the manufacturer to have people come in and service and do the warranty work for 5 years than it is to hire people, pay benefits, buy them tools and whatever, and train them. So that's what we do. I was on the Apparatus Committee for quite a while, and I started out as a fireman, and I was an engineer, a driver, operator of a 100-foot ladder. And the ladder went south, the bullet gear went. You have to take the ladder off and expose the the turntable, and it's a fairly extensive repair, but the truck was out of service for over 5 months. So I went to the Apparatus meeting one day, and I said, anybody here keeping track of this? Oh. So like the dopey guy from the Bronx, fine, I'm with like actuaries and masters and all these brainiacs with letters on. Hey, you think? I ain't doing that. You doing that? I ain't doing that. Nobody was keeping track. And so they were losing their shirt. The longer the manufacturer kept the rig out of service for repair, they were making money on both ends. They didn't service the warranty. So what you can do as part of your specifications is that you can give a period of time, say 10 days, anything after 10 days, any warranty period is going to be added onto the back of the warranty because you want your warranty. And that's just...
And they have some skin in the game too on the warranty, because otherwise they're not in any rush to fix it.
Because they're making it on both ends.
Now, considering the economic climate and the potential for some of these guys to go down, what do you guys think we can do? Let's say we wanted to go with a 3-year or a 5-year, but yet you pull some D&Bs on these guys and you wouldn't invest a dime in them if you were on that side of the game. Is there anything we can do to protect ourselves down the road? I mean, they go Chapter 11 on us, it's over.
Right, but what you can do is, you can do a neat trick that we learned. In the bid spec, you can cost it out at the end of the bid spec.
Okay.
You can ask for prices. What's a 2-year warranty worth? What's a 3-year warranty worth? What's a 4-year warranty worth? And then before you award contract, you are again going to dive into financial matters, and if you find a good builder that, I wouldn't suggest getting a builder to build my truck that wasn't going to be around in 5 years anyway, but make sure one last time, and then we've learned to do that a lot with components. People are working on fixed budgets, and okay, this is what you get for $500,000, and there's some little gems that you want, so we'll list them at the end of the bid spec for the potential bidders to bid on, and then, you know, you have money in the chief's budget or another account, you know, how much money do you have to jazz it up? And you can cost the warranty period out like that as well. What's 1-year warranty, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, and they'll put a figure in there, and then it's up to you to decide if it's something that's fiscally responsible and something that you want to pursue. Again, so obviously with the way conditions are in the marketplace, that particular vendor's going to be there. And then I would probably want to get with a lawyer and put some legalese in there as to what you would be able to get back if something were to happen. I'd want some kind of guarantee.
Could you pay them at the time the warranty year occurred? Could you buy the truck, you have the price on the warranty, because you word your spec in a way that you pay them every year, so you don't lay out all that money in the front.
Right, I don't see. Well, right, I don't see why you couldn't do that. You just have to put that verbiage, and then get them to agree. And most of the good top vendors will do that and not have a problem. One, they're going to be around for the long haul, and two, they're going to back their product, and they're probably not. It's not a big concern to them because their product's not going to break that much anyway. So.
And they may charge you a little bit more for the out years if you're going to pay them in the out years, but
right.
but you just have to weigh that risk against paying it right away.
Sure.
So who should they worry about, Mike? Who shouldn't they worry about? What are the names that are going to survive? Sid Pierce was in pretty good shape.
Yeah, Pierce is making money.
Rosenbauer?
Rosenbauer's making a lot of trucks right now. They have a lot of big money behind them. KME is making money in the business.
Their sales are up.
Yeah, they're doing a real good job. Their trucks are a lot better built now than they were just a few short. They were horrible. Yeah.
Ferrara?
He's got he's the 4th or 5th largest producer of fire trucks right now, and he's building them for my job.
Do they survive your job? Someone told me the other day that Ferrara was either going to blossom or crash and burn on the FDNYDO.
The problem was for a long time is that he was so far in debt that his great-great-grandchildren would have been bailing him out. He got investors, and actually Chris Ferrara only owns about a quarter of the company now.
He doesn't own the majority.
Right, he owns a very small part of it. For whatever reason, he or his group there, were in a big rush to do business with the FDNY. We have drug any number of manufacturers under and put them out of business. So just for that reason, I'm not sure that I would necessarily buy a truck there right at the moment.
Have they delivered any?
They delivered a lot. We haven't paid for any of them because
Are they in service?
No.
No.
The ladder?
not the last I knew, the ladders were in
They
service.
they bought 20. Did you buy 20 of them?
And signed on to buy,
Just recently,
right, signed on to buy 21 more or
Yeah.
something, and then added 10 more to that, I think. So we're up to
Rear
like
mounts?
51 rear mounts.
They make any tractor drums for you?
The tractor drones just went out to bid. It appears that Seagrave is going to be the successful bidder for those.
they built a lot of special units too, like through the rescues and hazmat.
They kind of took over when Salisbury went south. Chris Ferrara came to the table and started building some of the satellite units and the hazmat and the rescue units and stuff. Yeah.
So why aren't they in service if you can take a delivery? Just, I mean, is there problems with them, or they're just?
Yeah, there is, and there's a problem with us. We are just terrible to do business with in this place. Let me
Well, so
tell
their
you.
warranty is for the first 5 years. I mean, barring somebody just crashing into a building, it's the manufacturer's fault, right?
I'm going to go off the record here. I witnessed a brand new, at the time, $858,000 tower ladder that was like this because this outrigger was on the base of a tractor trailer that they had punctured. They punctured the skin of a box truck, and it was caught on the frame rail. And then it was, I think it was my,
But there was a fire.
there was it was so over. The fire was so, we were there just wetting crap down. It had been ongoing for an hour, and we were a relief truck, and it was cold and icy. And I worked overtime, which I never do. I think it was probably the last time I worked overtime. And
He's
I'm
fixing
watching,
the date now, huh?
That's it.
So much for being off the record.
I'm watching my career anticipation light dim with each passing second as this brand new truck is like arching itself over like the Titanic. And then all of a sudden the outrigger busted through the trailer, split it in half, and this thing is dancing on the street, and the jack pads become detached and unwelded. One of them skidded right across the incident command post right in front of him across that. Oh, you can't make this shit up. No, you just, what was that? Where I'm going. And then the next thing we had to do, the kindest, gentlest guy in the whole New York City Fire Department, who was the chauffeur, Willie Savidio, has a Halligan and is now seeking out the radio-equipped member that was on the other side watching all this happen. Yeah. We sent the truck to the shops. I called up. I have a friend out there, Rocky. Rocky was in charge of the aerial division. I said,
Please fix.
well, I said, you need to weld the jack heads on, and you need to put this up on a lift and check the suspension, because you could just hear it creak and torque, and I thought for sure we twisted the frame. And I said, I'm not gonna tell you any more than that, because I don't wanna make you complicit in this conspiracy, but you need to put it up on a lift. He put it up, they welded the jack plates on, sent it back. 8 days later, it went out of service with suspension issues, and it has been out 6 or 8 months every year.
8 days is enough time, though, to put enough distance between.
Wasn't me.
Something else happened. Yeah, it was the other shit.
Yeah.
So ladder 24 says the distance between the front top windshield and the top isn't enough to put the horns on, so they're not sure if they want it. Whole horns. That's good.
So, you know, Seagrave, who built the truck, I don't know how many thousands of dollars they put into that, and it wasn't their fault. And that happens a lot. On the other hand, if they're smart, they put a lot of money in that provision to take care of issues like that. Years ago, American La France put 81 pumpers here, and they allowed $5,000, $1,000 a year for each rig for each year of the warranty. The first thing that went south was the alternator at $3,800 per unit, and most of them went.
This is the old American.
Yeah, and that's how we drug them under. The trucks were ill-spec. It was with the lightest components, the lightest suspension, and they would break all the time. And whoever did that bid package did not put nearly enough money aside to do the warranty work, and we basically drug them under. So for that reason, you know, it depends what you're gonna buy too.
All right, we're back on the record.
Yeah, we're back on the record.
You guys own this, okay? It's not going anywhere. I can be bought.
We figured that out.
It depends what you're buying. Are you buying a pumper? Are you buying a ladder? Are you buying a tower? Are you buying an aerial tower? Are you buying a rescue truck? You know, there's some vendors out there that just build rescue trucks and do a dandy job of it. There are other builders that build a little bit of everything and don't do a great job. Certainly there are better ladder builders than others. Unfortunately, with your last set of trucks, you got the worst one, but that's okay.
Yeah. Is Marion still in business?
Yeah, Marion Body Works is still in business. They build pumpers and tankers and rescue units, and they do a nice job with their rescue trucks. They do a good job.
Couple if I could throw some in.
Yeah.
When we look at an RFP versus specific specification versus, some folks are now looking kind of more at like a combination approach. In some cases, truck committees have gone run them. Imagine that.
Which state are you talking about?
Confusion.
They did a report on Jersey, didn't they?
Yeah, they did a report on Jersey. In particular, this situation I thought was interesting because you ended up with two brand new lookalike engines that came in. There was no, I found out there was no company officer on the committee. All of a sudden there are 6 or 8 changes worth about $100,000 that had to be changed because the committee made changes which changed the basic operation of the vehicle. So we ended up in that situation. Right now, what's tentatively happening as an experiment is here's some basics of what the department is expecting in terms of this particular one is going to be an engine tanker. It's got to have X number of feet of compartment space, and just kind of go down. It's not going to have a dump tank, and a few of those different kind of things. That competitors come in, 4 or 5 of them come back in, drop something on the table. Basically, what they think is the best for the organization.
It's a performance spec.
Yeah. Tell us what you think. They come back with something, and then from there, the committee can kind of figure out what they're going to do. But in the meantime, you don't have people running off making decisions that probably aren't in the best interest of the department. And I've seen some of that take place. Spec, we talked a little bit about RFP, some kind of hybrid. Where do you guys, back to Jersey again.
There you go.
We're back to Jersey. Where do you guys see the changes really taking place in terms of requiring new apparatus?
First off, most everybody trying to do it right now doesn't know what they're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Just like your department wouldn't put a station addition on for $500,000 without seeking out what first? What's one of the first people you would seek out if you're going to put a station addition on?
Architect. The big Eddie.
Yeah. Okay, and why would you do that? Because you don't know what you're doing. The same people that would think of going out and building a building for $500,000 and putting an addition on without an architect are trying to sit down and have never bought a $1.3 million aerial tower and trying to do that themselves. And they're just setting themselves up for failure. You need to have an advocate that's going to help you buy the truck that knows what they're doing. Whether it's my group or there's any number of groups out there that are really terrific that can offer technical expertise.
Well, I think to the issue inside your department is you need to have somebody in charge of the purchase too, that nothing gets passed. In our department, we have an apparatus chief that unless he signs off on it, now he gets direction from his boss, but unless he signs off on it, nothing happens. The committee doesn't have the right to make changes without him being.
But that was the first thing that happened. It somewhat got in the way.
We have a methodology, and I can teach you how to build and buy a truck. So that's one thing, to even have a class. If you're in Jersey, one of the first things that was asked of the people was, what kind of classes did you go to that qualified you to sit down and design a truck? And we actually worked with a department, with the fire district, Brick Township, that actually initiated all this with the Attorney General We've done a lot of work in Jersey because now they're afraid to do anything without some kind of technical expertise.
So you're not in Jersey, are you in Jersey or Connecticut? Connecticut.
Okay, now, you mentioned something else. You mentioned a lot of money with change orders. Okay, here's how it goes. You develop specifications. You can take the manufacturer specifications and tune it up. You can develop your own. Probably the worst thing that people do is take 3 or 4 manufacturer specifications and try to cut and paste them, and then nobody wants to talk to you. That's the absolute worst. So you get your spec, you put it out to bid, the bids come back. This is where all the work takes place on your truck. Before you see anything red or shiny, okay? You go through the bid packages. We do that. The last one we went to, there was a $58,000 spread in price. And one of the manufacturers that bid low, or the manufacturer that bid low, took 3 exceptions to the bid spec, and actually we found them out for 39 more that they didn't tell the truth on. So that's a problem. So you have to iron all that out. You go to the pre-construction conference. That's it. Okay? You are going to now decide what this fire truck is going to be like. Anything that you change after that is going to cost buku bucks. It's called a change order. Okay? So you need to do all the work that you can possibly do. And one of the things that burns me up now, among a lot of them, is that departments want to back the new one in and take the old stuff off the old one and pull it out and try to figure out where it goes. If you're going to work with us, I want you to tell me what's going to be in every compartment, because that's big money. That compartment space, if you divide it by the cost of the vehicle, represents more per square foot than what space you could rent at the local mall. Okay, it's big money. So we need to be certain about what's going to be in there. And that's all done before the or at the pre-construction conference. Because any changes you make after that, they're going to hose you for it. The more work that you do in purchasing a fire truck before the and at the pre-construction conference, the easier the rest of the process goes. It's a lot of hard work to do this. Okay, it can be fun, but it's a lot of hard work. If you don't put the time and the work in it, A, you're going to get screwed, or B, it's going to cost you a ton of money when you figure out that what you're getting isn't what you're getting, and you go to the mid-inspection and say, well, we need to do this, this, and this.
These suckers were delivered. And all of a sudden, there were no company officers on the committee. The first officer was really like a huge problem. They all stood and looked at the bumpers and where the bumper go. We thought we were going to have this, this, and this. The committee came in, so no, we decided not to do that. Oh.
It sounds like an internal problem.
Oh yeah, that one was an internal problem. So then we had to follow.
You look at the apparatus committee, what should it be made up of? It should be between 4 and 7 people, 5 being operative. You should have a firefighter operator that's going to represent people that are going to actually work off this thing. You should have a company officer. You should have somebody, if you have a mechanic or somebody mechanically inclined or somebody from within that works on the trucks, they should be represented as well. You should probably have somebody from management that's going to cut the check. Okay, that would probably be helpful, that's going to represent. And then like on our committee, we have somebody from the safety command that would sit in to make sure that, it's going to pass muster. And so you want to get as much input from the people that are going to use it. And here's a quick story. A friend of mine worked in the industry for a while for Seagrave, and Caterpillar engines had a throttle leakage problem with Seagraves. And it was a Caterpillar problem, but Seagrave built the truck, so they sent a Seagrave guy out. He goes to the first station. He gets greeted by the career house guy, and he says, yeah, we have 2 of those. And he said, yeah, let me call the captain. The captain comes down. Oh, man, these trucks are awesome. We just have this problem. It's great, and we're going to get that worked out. And it ends up that the captain was on the apparatus committee, and so was the house watchman, and they really liked the truck. The next place he went up the road about an hour. He knocks at the door. He gets the house watchman again. Yeah, the piece of shit's over there. The chief's upstairs. He's the one that bought it. Go talk to him. So if you don't have people on your apparatus committee that are from within, that are gonna actually work on the truck, you're not gonna get buy-in from the troops. And a couple things are gonna happen. The trucks are gonna be hated, okay? Nobody's gonna take care of them, because nobody really wants them. And you're gonna just open yourself up again to failure.
So if all, okay, so just going on that, so let's say the specs aren't changed kind of while it's being built and stuff, and it's surprise everybody. You recommend that, that you send some people to the actual builder's yard almost, and just run the truck through its paces before you take it off the lot?
Okay, here's
Yeah,
how it.
short answer, yes.
Yes, here's how it goes. You put your specs out, you get the bids back, you award contracts. You should go to the builder's factory to do the pre-construction conference. Don't do it at your firehouse. Don't do it at the salesman's shop.
If you do it at your firehouse, they'll send the fifth string guy to do it with you. If you do it at the factory, you're gonna get the first string guy to help you out.
You should be doing 3 inspections.
Yeah.
That's the first, the pre-construction is the first interaction with the factory. And what happens is this: you tell me you want a light over the rear tandems. Geesh, I don't know. You call up the engineer from downstairs, you bring him up and say, can we put a light there? Is it gonna affect anything else? And so you get the answer, it's instantaneous, and you get somebody that knows what they're doing and talking. That's why you have it done at the factory, okay? Then you should be going out to do a mid-inspection. Okay, it's generally pre-paint. It's generally when you can figure some stuff out that maybe you missed. Hopefully you didn't miss anything. But you may want to make some changes there. I remember on the rescue pumper we put 2 pipe pole holders up on the right side of the hose bed, underneath the hose bed, and then the rest of this was blank. I said, well, what's behind there? He said, well, nothing. I said, can we put more pipe pole holders? He says, yeah. He says, you can put 4 more. I said, okay. So we really couldn't see that on the drawings. I really didn't know that until we physically went there, and it was a change order that was like $700 or something.
Not to mention too, in that phase, you see something you're not sure about, well, you can go out on the floor, and like Pierce has 300 rigs coming through, and go see what other people have done, the exact same thing. We did that with a couple of artillery rigs where the water came out, or when you drain the water out of the pipe, and it just came straight out. Well, you need either the boot to go up and pull that, because it was going to hit that deck and splat all over you, have a pipe hole. We looked at a couple other, and they just ran a half-inch pipe over here off the back end. It was a simple solution. It didn't cost us anything, but you can go out and see other solutions.
The builder's a little bit responsible for that stuff, though. Like, this will probably work better for you, or whatever.
Well, but we spec'd it that way.
Oh.
We didn't know any different
Yeah.
until we saw it, and we're like, oh, that's gonna be a problem. And we went and looked at what other people were on.
I actually seen some bad wells too going, you know, it's been a while when I was in high school, but that ain't a good well, you know?
I just be cautious if you're coming from Ottawa to E1 in the wintertime. There's a lot of jealousy, at least in our city, about travel. So be careful about travel and make sure that you stay on point when you're there. The last thing you need is a story getting home that you're off playing golf. And you know, we hear stories about, well, yeah, the fire chief went and did an inspection, but he did it from the golf course. And when the rig gets back, there's problems with it, and then you're on the hook if you're there. The other thing I'd say about the mid, or even the pre-build, is to keep your own notes. The apparatus guys, the factory guys will take notes, but you ought to take your own notes too, to help you remember, because you can't remember every little detail a year later or 6 months later when the rig is done.
And if you don't get it from them in writing, it ain't gonna happen. So make sure you get everything in writing, especially at the pre-construction where you're changing stuff around or stuff. They need to sign off on as many items as you do. And then we come to the final inspection. We went through this yesterday. I am not as good as my partner. In fact, I'm nowhere near as good as my partner. My partner is anal lieutenant. He remembers part numbers in his sleep. He's phenomenal. I sent him to go do final inspections. He's done any number. How many builders have actually built what they said they were going to build? None. There was one group that we did that was short $23,800 worth of stuff on the truck that we found out. Yeah.
So give the bar line example you gave yesterday, yeah.
You order a Federal XYZ bar light. it costs $3,000. You put it in your bid, they agreed to it, that's what they're supposed to supply. My guy Tom goes and looks at it because he's anal retentive and remembers nondescript stuff like this. He says, oh, wait a minute, that ain't a federal XYZ, that's only a federal X, and that costs $1,000. Now, had you gone and you didn't know any of this, right, you would have turned the rocker switch on, the lights would have went woo, 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 and you would have been none the wiser. Everybody would have been happy because you have no clue. So again, it would really behoove you. When we work with people, we generally save them at least $10,000, if not more, over our fee. You know, we haven't worked with anybody and not saved them from themselves, basically.
It is excellent to do a final though too, because if there's some little tweak, they can do it right there. They have all the skilled people there. It's worth it. If you're buying a series of trucks, like if you're buying a half a dozen of the same rate, you don't necessarily need to fly to Orlando in the wintertime 6 times. But what we used to do is we would do the first one, and then we would say make the rest of them like that. And then you'll still inspect them when they come to town. You know, Mike talks about a final inspection of pump test you mentioned yesterday.
But we did that in town. Again, all these tests should be done at the factory so that if there are problems, that you can get them addressed straight away. In this particular case, a friend of mine begged them to do an acceptance test. The NFPA has an acceptance test for pumpers. Okay, you're supposed to do X amount of GPMs and PSI for a certain amount of time. It's in the handbook. I think it's in 1901. It's around. The information's available. He begged this other department next door, and they didn't want to do it. They were just, we got a UL certificate. Okay, but do it anyway. This 1250 pumper struggled to do 755 gallons a minute. It just couldn't pump. They sent it back to the factory, came back a month later, still no change. The chief said, you got one more shot at this. It better be right when it comes back, or we're going to refuse it and buy something from somebody else. It ends up that when they, this was a Navistar chassis, I believe, or Freightliner, one or the other. It was a commercial chassis. And when they had hooked the pump up, they hooked the pump up to pump in 4th gear and not 5th. And there was also metal filings in the bottom of the transmission case. And so had my friend not basically pleaded with them to do this, they would have paid for a 1250 pump, gotten a 750 pump, with metal filings in the transmission case that probably after the warranty ran out would have gave them a problem, an issue, and they would have had no recourse. So, I mean, I like UL, and they're a good company, but the reality is when it comes to testing this stuff, you need to test it yourself at your own place before you pay for it. And the other thing, whatever you do, before you give anybody money for anything on any truck, make sure you go out and weigh it. And weigh it with all the equipment mounted in it, with all the mounting brackets, and make sure that you have an ask for every seat. And you got to go scale the truck, and when you weigh it, there's a methodology to weigh it. Right, 3 times. You're going to get 3 weight tickets, one for the front axle, one for all the axles, one for the rear axle or rear axles if it's a tandem. And then you're going to compare them. There's a plate made in the inside driver's door around the driver's area, and you're going to compare the axle weight ratings with what they actually weigh. And if they're even close, then you call a big timeout and you huddle up.
So the number in the cab should be bigger than the one on the ticket.
Right, way bigger. No, not way bigger, but some bigger. Yes.
Let me ask you, as far as all the equipment and so forth, is
You're
it,
not allowed to have it.
okay. Thank you. Is it feasible to weigh it? We've got pallets of chains for winter, so they'll load the rig with chains the same way the current rig is the same as that. Is that feasible as well, would you say?
To do
As
what,
far
just
as the
put weight in it?
As long as
No.
it matches the weight as the equipment. And
I suppose, but what you should really do is decide what you want in each compartment, and you can go to FAMA website. It's the Fire Apparatus Manufacturers Association.org, O-R-G website, and they actually have a worksheet where it will tell you weights of some of the stuff with the brackets, and when you engage the salesperson, you're gonna wanna make sure that all these computations are done. If you don't, you need to have a tool and equipment list of present and future tools that you're gonna put on this, because if you don't, and it's built to the NFPA standard, you're gonna get the standard 2,000 pounds worth of stuff. Well, if you kind of spec'd out a half-assed rescue pumper and have 3,000 pounds worth of stuff that you're gonna put on it, if you didn't tell them, you own the problem. You own the problem.
What was that website again?
It's FAMA, Fire Apparatus Manufacturers Association, and it's .org. And they have an excellent template, and they give weights of like Hurst tools and jaws and some of the bracketry and stuff, you know, so it'll give you a good idea of what some of the stuff weighs, or you can take and weigh it yourself.
So Mike, isn't it a requirement, 1901 information provided by the purchaser that you do give them that? Or in lieu of that, they just use the standard?
They just use the standard if you don't give them anything, and that's where the confusion, well, actually, there's no confusion. If you don't tell them what you're gonna put on it,
It's the standard.
it's just the standard. And I think, we just went through this the other day, Kevin. I think it's like 2,000 for a pumper and maybe 2,500 for a rescue pumper, and it's in 1901, and it just gives what they're gonna allow when they build it. You know, and so they're gonna put axles and suspension under it to sustain that weight. And if you're gonna put more than that on it, you're almost always, and overweight fire trucks right now are really a national plague. They're a huge problem. Kevin did an accident yesterday, and Kevin and Mike did in their presentation from Boston. Sure as I'm sitting here, that truck was overweight, and it was the first day they put it in service, based on what it was. Another thing, you said you were buying a tanker, right? A pumper
Engine
tanker,
tanker, yeah.
an engine tanker. Okay, another thing that we found doing stuff like that. You want to get the vendor to deliver the truck empty, completely empty, okay? You're going to scale it, you're going to weigh the truck. You're going to fill it up with water, you're going to weigh it again. And then you're going to dump the water out, and you're going to weigh it again. We were doing water supply course. I helped write the water supply thing for New York State.
Right.
And, well, it was a lot.
How much water's left in the tank?
How about 28%?
Holy crap.
So the dump out's too high.
They were trucking 600 gallons of the same water back and forth every day. The baffles, when it was built, were screwed up, and the sump was screwed up. And they had to take the top of the tank off and get it all redone.
It just wasn't. Yeah.
If I can go back to the weight issue, because we've been dealing with this, some
Where were you
brainiac-
from, I'm sorry?
Vegas.
Vegas.
Some brainiac on our department. So you have the chart that comes with the book that talks about weights and tires. So it gives you a tire manufacturer that you're using with the, and then it gives you a PSI that tire should be, and it tells you should be, you know, whatever the weight is. And we're well under our weight. But now somebody's decided that they can read that chart backwards. That if you have this tire with this, if your vehicle weighs this much, that this is what your tire pressure should be. So I'm going in the back of the truck because they've lowered our rear tire pressure from 110 down to about 85. And I'm going, they're rubbing. The duals are rubbing. You can't tell me that's right. They called Pierce, and the engineer at Pierce said, no, you can read it either way. And I went, there is no way.
Unless they rub.
And
Little asterisk, no rubbing.
and on top of that, that's even worse for me, you know,
It sounds bad.
going down the freeway at 55. I mean, it's
They gotta heat up too.
Yeah, that's how. That'll do it.
on our heavy rescue. I mean, we just had to send it back to Pierce because the frame all cracked because of the weight issue, and that's what started all this was. And we went and bought our own scales because we were having the highway patrol back every other day to weigh different stuff, put this on, move this around, and but I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, and my degree is in auto mechanics before I found what I really like doing, and I'm like, this does not make sense. It just doesn't.
If it doesn't, then it probably doesn't. What happens is that when the whole suspension is put together, the springs and the axles and the tires are all in sync for a specific weight and a specific speed. Okay, that have to be,
It's a system, in other words.
it's a whole system. Okay, we've had places that have taken tires off trucks that wouldn't fit in firehouses and try to put low-slung rubber on them to get the trucks to fit. That's great until you drive it, and then you just voided every kind of weight issue and manufacturing issue that there is because it doesn't have the proper tires at the proper inflation. When you call Pierce or any other factory and talk to engineers, you need to get the right one, okay? That's going back to the other comment when we talk about doing a pre-construction conference. That's why you want to be at the factory. They have all kinds of engineers. You need to get the right one, okay? Anybody can tell you anything. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. The idea of having the sidewalls rubbed and first to have 85 pounds of heavy truck tires.
Ask the Pierce guy, could you send me an email that says that?
Right.
He did. The Pierce engineer sent an email saying.
Really?
Yeah,
City
but I'm
attorney
just telling them
wants
it's
to
not.
send us an email with that.
Then I'd probably.
I'm going to do something that I rarely do, okay?
Send me that email.
You're going to send me that email, and then I'm going to get the lead engineer at Pierce, who's my friend, and he's going to either say that this is legit, which I doubt, or fire the guy that's got his name on that
Oh, they
email.
won't fire him.
No, they won't fire him.
You don't want to get a guy to wax
No, we don't want to get his stuff.
All right, well, our driver operator coordinator was in here yesterday, and him and I have been going toe to toe on this. It's just not right. It doesn't make sense. This tells you maximum weight. It even says maximum capacity. It doesn't say, so.
We'll get a clarification on that email, but if it looks like a fish, it stinks like a fish,
Yeah.
it's probably a fish.
On a hot day, if you just drive that rig around town a few times, I'm sure the tires would melt.
We have no shortage of hot days.
Yeah,
Along that same line, independent suspension. What do you guys think about it? Necessary, not necessary?
How much money you got in your maintenance budget?
Well, then we're gonna talk about all steers next. Talk about spending
Do
maintenance.
they
money.
still sell
Well,
They will sell
we're
it.
still paying for it.
They will sell it if you've had one
Yeah,
and
that's
you
a
really
problem.
want one.
To be able to train.
I was buying a heavy rescue for the Capitol Police in DC from Pierce.
I'm gonna go train them on that, driver training, yeah.
They had all steer,
Yeah.
and
Still do.
Pierce made them sign a deal that they would promise to maintain it. It's like, I guess, the problem with all steer, I think, was the sight glasses to line it up, is that correct?
That's part of it.
You
And they
guys know what the
scrub tires
system
off.
is?
of
The
it.
rear
yeah.
tires are singles.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll
Scrub
steer
tires
off.
at lower speeds. But one of the problems was if the sight glasses get dirty, they use to true up the system, but they lose their mind and steer when they're not supposed to steer. Like when you're driving down the street.
Is that a contributing factor in that Massachusetts truck drove off the road?
No, that was a
thing?
pump.
Yeah,
But
that
there's
was a
been
pumper,
plenty.
but it had all
There's
steer.
been plenty. One of their demos drove off the road in
Colorado.
Our friend Mike Lombardo, the commissioner in Buffalo, they froze all theirs.
Well, that's-
Same thing in Tualatin Valley, up not too far from.
Because they kept
from
crashing into
Steve.
cars.
Yeah, they bought 5 of them, and
Great
after
idea.
6 months of whacking stuff, they said, that's it, we're gonna lock them right up. But then you still have the thing with, Homer had a couple too, and he ended up actually taking the axles and put regular tandem axles. He couldn't keep tires on it. He couldn't keep tires on it. So that's,
It's a great system if it worked. You know, and Pierce, or Seagrave had a version of that years and years ago. Didn't your department have one?
My hometown department that I started as a volunteer had a '69 Seagrave aerial that had steerable rear wheels in first gear, in the low gear, up to about 10 miles an hour. They would go opposite of the front wheels.
So Mike, how would you answer this question in regards to independent suspension?
okay. You can call up the shops at Fairfax County, Virginia.
Okay.
They have a whole fleet of Pierces with independent front suspension. Does it give a nice ride? Yeah. Is it worth the extra money that you pay, and is it worth the maintenance that, he had to put $40,000 more in his maintenance budget to keep the axles and suspension underneath the trucks. Yeah. Yeah, to maintain that front. I'll tell you a couple things. First, I like Pierce trucks. Don't get me wrong. But I said the same thing yesterday. Pierce have probably the best marketing people on the face of the earth. They come up with like independent front suspension, and then they make everybody believe that you are just a chump if you don't have this on your truck. Well, the only people that you can buy it from are Pierce. So the minute that you put that in your spec, A, it tells everybody out there that could potentially bid the project whose spec it is, and B, it tells you who has a leg up. And they consistently do this. What they'll do is they'll take, it's a good example, Rolltech. You ever hear Rolltech?
Sure.
Here's Rolltech. Okay, they helped develop that by a company that I'm doing business with now called IMMI. And Pierce fronted some of the money, but so did IMMI for the Rolltech. Because of that affiliation, IMMI had to sign a confidentiality agreement working on the project A, and B, had to sign an agreement that said that Pierce had exclusivity to this for 18 months after it hits the FDIC show floor. So for 18 months, if you order Rolltech, you got to buy it from Pierce. Okay? And then they came up with frontal airbags. And so they go, then now it's the puck. Okay, front suspension. So they take all these components, and they're the only ones for a period of time that can do it, and it gives them exclusivity, and it gives them a lot of business. And they're very smart at that, and they're very good at what they do, and they do build a good product. But with the independent front suspension, well, let's go back. We are easy, and we get sold crap all the time. Okay?
Only if it's shiny.
Only if it's shiny. Okay? The big buzz for a long time were roll-up doors. Well, we're going to save the fire service from itself. You'll never lose another compartment door into the side of the firehouse opening again. We're going to save you guys from yourself. Do roll-up doors have an application in the fire service? They absolutely do. Is it the end-all and cure-all and panacea? No. If you're in the Northeast and you hit them with water, they freeze. Go with me to Edwards Air Force Base out in the Mojave Desert, and on Monday morning, the boot has to go around and clean every roll-up door and lube it for the next week because it's full of Mojave Desert sand, and it won't work if you leave it more than a week.
They work great for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have sand problem?
And the freezing is not really a big issue.
Just that one time when it
The big haboob.
Came out of nowhere.
Okay.
Boom, that's.
You have a halogen in the compartment, it comes loose and it jams in there. You better hope that the next compartment next door is a D handle with a torch, because that's the only way you're going to get. So,
Plus you lose your top shelf.
well, that's the other issue. You take it by a $1.2 million ladder truck, you divide that compartment space per square foot by the cost of that, and now you're going to fill up each compartment with the top third with the guts of a roll-up door?
As someone who's done it, though,
Lots
you
of
do
space
avoid
for-
the embarrassment of taking a door off.
Lots of space when it's down, but that's a.
So, is there an application for roll-up doors? Absolutely. Is it the panacea that salesmen make it out to be? Absolutely not. And in the beginning, the vendors were buying them for like next to nothing and upcharging the crap out of them because everybody plus the Joneses wanted to have them in their truck. Now the pricing is a little bit different, but compressed air foam. Compressed air foam on a fire truck right now. There was a great thing that came out. Did you see that about the?
At the ICMA room?
Yeah. Okay. What they didn't. There's. I'm so compelled to write into them as a rebuttal. Don't do it. Okay. A compressed air foam system is the single most expensive component that you can put on a fire truck today.
How much?
$60,000 to $80,000. It costs more than the engine and transmission combined. It takes up space on the truck.
It's miracle shaped.
The system is heavy. So not only do you have the $60,000 upcharge for the system, but now because of the weight of the system, you may have to upgrade axle, transmission, and even the engine to haul it
So
around.
like, how about A versus CAS? A induction versus CAS.
You can get an inductor, and for a few pennies, you can be in the foam business, okay? And I'm not saying compressed air foam is bad, but again, it's how many of you in your fire stations have 5-gallon pails of stuff that somebody sold you over the last 30 years in the back corner. We had light water, we have heavy water, barn fires in New York or Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
They had penetrating water. You could buy that, it was magic
Wet
shit.
water.
You put it in wet water,
Wet
dry
water, yeah.
water.
Wet water.
Okay. In New York City, we even took the plunge. They had trucks here in the 70s that were rapid water. And the promise was you could get as much water out of an 1 3/4 hose as a 2.5, and you could take one person off each engine company and reduce staffing by like hundreds of men here in this department.
So it's a city idea.
It was,
They had component problems with the rapid water system.
it was so bizarre because the trade name for it was polyox, but it was basically, the components of it were rose milk hand cream that we were dumping in our booster tanks, trying to straighten out the friction loss in the water. You know?
What a country.
Yeah, there's a sucker born every minute, and it seems like because of who we are in the fire service, we're just ripe for picking. And part of the work that I do with the specs and stuff is because my pet peeve is I hate people taking advantage of other people. And I really hate people taking advantage of firefighters, because they're the salt of the earth. They're the best that God has to offer on this planet. And it just, so it's neat when I get to sit across like from a salesman, and most of the time we know more than they do, and they try to pull their crap, and we like sink their ship right away. It's fun. It's almost like a game.
Is Homer still buying gas?
I think he is. The other thing too is that like we'll work with a volunteer department upstate New York. They run 2 fires a year. Divide that by 20-year lifespan of the pumper, or times that by 20, that's 40, and then divide that by 8. You're going to spend $2,000 a fire to put calves on your truck.
If I may, I love my independent front suspension, and I work overtime and go to older rigs, and then I come back to my rig, and I just can't, I mean, I love it. It turns sharper, and we did go from 4-wheel drum to front disc, and I love it. I mean, and that's driving it day in, day out.
So in defense of calves, we bought calves for every pumper in our fire department, but we did it the wrong way. We didn't train our guys properly on it. Most of our fires like yours are bedroom fires. Guys go down the hallway, don't paint the hallway with the calves. They open the door of the bedroom and hit it for 30 or 60 seconds, and they shut the line down to see what's going on. And that's fine with clear water, but with calves, all that shit comes back in steam. It all gets converted. In Fort Worth, our friend Homer Robertson implemented calves there. He put it on like 1 engine first, and they ran citywide in every working fire, so everybody wanted to work there. And then he parceled it out to a couple other engines, so it's not the whole job. It is a great tool. I don't agree with the ICMA had an article in their magazine last month talking about how screwed up fire departments work because they wouldn't adopt this new technology. So you can expect that from your city manager before too long.
That's a switch, that you won't adopt the technology that costs $60,000
It's just
more
like,
for their truck.
is independent front suspension good? Yes. Is it worth what you may have to pay for it? Only you can decide that. Is calves proven? At least unlike rapid water and all the other crap people try to sell, calves seems to work really, really well. You know, if you have the money to purchase a system, purchase the foam, and train with it, and you have enough fires that are going to, over time, help pay for itself, then
Life is good.
It's great on junkyard fires, stuff like that. It's really worked well for us. But we don't buy it on our new pumpers now.
But what I find just one more point, what I find fascinating is for the amount of calves-equipped apparatus out there, and then you go to fireengineering.com and firehouse.com, I should be looking at foam literally coming out the front door of buildings, and I'm not seeing that yet.
Once in a blue moon, you see a little bubbles.
Most places I go that have it, bought it, and don't even.
I think high X is the next big thing. What do you think? Go back to
Jet X.
Back to the 50s. Jet X.
Yes, Jet X. Jet X.
I was thinking NFPA 1911, which is, if I remember the numbers right, that's the one on the mechanic side, basically. Maintenance.
I think that's the one, too, that says now that you have to weigh your apparatus annually.
Okay.
I believe it's in there.
Do we think people are really following the NFPA standard, in this case 1911?
Oh, good Lord, no.
if I could piggyback that, and then you can answer. Last 2 years ago, when we were here, and you guys talked about having outside mechanics work on your vehicles, and it goes back to the whole Boston thing. We went back, and we've been fighting this for 2 years, you know, because a lot of our stuff is under warranty. We just ordered 10 new pumpers and 4 new ladders. They're all coming. But a lot of the stuff's under warranty, so it's going out to Detroit to get worked on. And then they want us to go pick it up. And I'm going, no, you guys go pick it up. And when you say it's good, then I'll come pick it up. And then I'll really tell you if it's good. But I should not be going to Detroit. And now Detroit's claiming we're higher trained than your shop mechanics, so you don't question us. And this is all, and I'm on safety committee, so it's all in this big pool.
We are the fucking customer, right? Did they really say that?
That's what our shop guys are saying. Our shop guys are saying they're higher trained than us. And our shop's been decimated.
Yeah.
You know, our shop went from 9 guys and a supervisor to 3 guys, and one of them's doing hydrants now.
Is it a fire department shop or is it?
Yeah, it's a fire department shop. And now they're talking about, but you know, so I understand they're overworked and all this stuff's going to Detroit, but I still think that our shop, the guys who are supposedly meeting the 1911 standard, are actually picking up the rigs, inspecting it, making sure the work is done that they claimed were done, going back to the brakes. And they number one, don't want to do it, probably because they're overworked. But the guys at Detroit said, hey, we're higher trained than them are. Now, I also brought up the point when they go to work on one of our ladders and they have to tilt the cab, so now they got to raise an aerial. Are they trained to do that? And our shop guys, they can handle these. You know, so these are all
you
things
don't have to set the outriggers to do that.
Yeah.
Until you turn it.
Yeah. hit the emergency bypass and move on.
Right.
You're such a cheery guy.
Just to tilt the cab, you don't have to.
Right.
But if you take it off center,
Absolutely.
you're going to lay it down.
It's a little ugly at that point, isn't it?
Oh, it's happened so many places.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Sean.
That's
Well, I just-
Keep firing.
Let me just, there's a couple quick, okay, take care. Fuel tanks.
The only man who's not cold in this room here.
Really?
Yeah, I bought a sweatshirt.
I know. It's warm here.
But fuel tanks rusting out,
Makes sense.
3 years old.
The fuel tanks or the straps?
The fuel tanks, the top of the fuel tanks, in 2 engines that are now almost 4 years old, twins. Surprising that would be the case.
The new biodegradable fuel, there are a couple issues going on with that. One is that if it sits for a long time, part of the bio is there's microbes that form that can actually gum up filters and things. We've had that. And it seems to be, with the additives that they're putting in it, it seems to be corrosive. One of the things that we get a lot, and this is for everybody, is that the fuel tank may be stainless steel, but a lot of times it'll have steel straps holding it on that will go south. So you want to make sure when you write your specifications that it has a stainless steel tank with stainless steel straps holding it on so that you don't leave your fuel tank. There was an excellent article written. I have a copy of it that somebody sent me, and we talked about it on a podcast for a while. And as we move forward with the biodegradable, the green diesel fuel, there becomes more and more issues with that. Absolutely. That's a good idea. We can have you as a special guest. Way cool. Why don't you?
I'm not qualified.
Yes, you are.
He has something to talk about.
You do too. That's a good idea. I can get all you guys.
One last one, I had a dozen, so I figured it's probably enough. Recaps.
You're driving an emergency vehicle. In my world, recaps are out. Some people don't see it that way. In the military, for a long time, they were using recaps on everything. We finally talked them out of at least getting them off the front steering axles, and that they had to be new. A lot of places will, not a lot, some places will use recaps on the rear.
We'll put them on tandem, but not the steering axle and no singles.
Yeah. My recommendation, if you're
If you
asking,
can get away from them, yeah.
yeah, you know, we are using a piece of equipment out of the normal range of use, and it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to use recaps, especially given we talked about it yesterday. There was a gentleman here with, from Colorado with specialty vehicles. There's a new tire standard now. The NFPA says you have to swap them out in 7 years, and there's actually,
I remember hearing that.
right, there's actually a date on each of the tires. Make sure when you buy new tires that they're that year and not 2 years ago.
So the 7 years starts with date of manufacture, doesn't
Right.
start with the date you put
Oh,
on
no,
that
so
vehicle.
you have to.
So if it's 3 years old, God forbid, when you put it on, you got 4 years, not 7 years.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
That's kind of
That's
what I
exactly right.
assumed.
And this all came about, I remember one time it was out in Wyoming or Montana or out in the upper Midwest where it was a tender who, a department did like 50 runs a year, and the tender didn't do all that, and it went for preventive maintenance, and it blew a tire on the way there, and it blew a tire on the front apron on the way back, and the truck was 12 years old, it had the original rubber, and the tread looked fine, but it was just all dry rot. And so you can't just physically look at the tread and say that the tire's okay. In the case yesterday of the gentleman from Colorado, he had specialty vehicles that didn't necessarily make a lot of runs, like foam tenders and,
Yeah.
you know, maybe a trench trailer or whatever it was. He didn't really, you know, enunciate that, but that there were issues, so.
And we can't even, we go 2 years and they're done. Because we can't, the heat just, and it, like on our technical rescue team, our trailer sits out there, you know, gets taken to training, and if you call, you know, what,
You don't
10
have the
times
old,
a
you
year?
don't have the old man plywood that lays up on the.
Well, we actually have RV covers for them, but they just sit out there and dry rot. So after 2 years, they're done.
I can imagine with the heat out
You from
there.
the city,
It's
Vegas
just
or Park
The city.
I gotta believe the heat just did something to the tires up there.
Takes us too long, you know, standing next to the rig pump.
Yeah, buddy.
Do you have any other questions? I don't wanna
One
leave-
last question.
I don't want to leave any of your
No,
questions.
very quick.
unanswered.
There was a dozen of them, and we got through them all. I was afraid we were gonna run out of things to talk about, so I was
Thank
throwing
you
shit
for
at the
that.
wall. I was throwing shit at the wall.
Technical term.
The question is, a number of years ago, we started to see apparatus, let's just talk engines or rescue engines, getting smaller. Now, I don't see them getting smaller. Individually, what are you guys seeing? I mean, the only place we see new vehicles is when they put them in the back of the magazines or that kind of thing, or they put them out on the show floor here. And for every, I think about Europe where they have the smaller vehicle for in the city and the bigger vehicle for out in the country. Whenever you see a smaller, kind of like a city style vehicle, something smaller, for every one of those you see 15 or 18 big guys. What are you seeing in terms of size of engines and rescue engines? Just kind of through it for you.
We have in our city some of our outlying stations with the smaller streets and so forth. We'll buy a smaller little mini pumper, where it's most all of our pumpers are top-mounted pumpers.
Okay, so you've got almost a little top.
But if we like the smaller ones, we'll buy these smaller ones, mini ones that are mid-mount, so we can shrink our size down.
Now, when you say mini pumper, I think back to the 70s. When
I'm
you're talking
sure.
about something that's kind of mid-sized on a commercial chassis, something like that.
Yeah.
Do they have a real pumper too, or do they just have that?
What's that?
Do they have a real?
No,
pumper?
yeah, it's a real engine, just a mid-mount versus the top-mount, which shrinks it down.
The wheel.
It will be, yeah, quite a bit, so it's just, and it's skinnier as well, I believe, width-wise, I should say. So it's something we've done for that.
So Mike, in volunteer departments, it's my sense that they can't get 5 trucks out, so they're trying to pack all that shit on the first 1 or 2 pieces out.
Their rescue pumper tanker.
Yeah. Rescue pumper tanker quit, ladder.
Right. What we're trying to do, it's a last bastion or last gasp before people come to the realization that you can't have 5 trucks anymore, that you're gonna have to pare down to 3 because that's all that you can staff. We just did a fleet evaluation for a group. They put 228 miles on their 3rd out pumper in the last 3 years and wanted to go out and spend $600,000 to replace it. Why?
And that's a problem.
Why? You're not using it. Top mount versus side mount. This is always an interesting discussion. The industry standard for top mount pumps for the walkway is somewhere between 20 and 24 inches. That gets added directly to the wheelbase. We're gonna deal with the client shortly. We want a short pumper, but we want a top mount pump.
Laws of physics say no.
Right, something has to give. You have this space. If you want it short in the top mount pump, then the rest of it's gonna be, you're not even gonna, you're gonna get a nosebleed trying to stretch a hand line off this truck because it's gonna be so higher off the ground. Again, this was another sales thing from a salesman. You need to have a top mount pump because it gets guys up in the air, out of traffic, and they'll be able to see. If you're taught how to operate a pumper correctly, you don't need to see. You do it by feel and by hearing. You don't even need to look at the gauges, let alone look out over the field. Again, how many firefighters have been hurt and injured getting up and off of top-mounted pumpers?
More than were hit by.
By a ton, by a ton. So again, what we've done is we've listened to the salesmen who can sell these things, and the latest craze, you gotta have this top-mounted pump because of this safety, and it's just not true. It's just salesmanship at its worst, really, or best, however you wanna look at them. Now, I'm not trying to screw with you, but
It's just like, we love them, just that's what works for us.
What?
It's why they make vanilla chocolate and
strawberry, and I'm not big. If you got top mount pumps and nobody falls off of them and they're working for you, fine.
You're
But
not allowed to
don't.
fall off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're fired.
You can't file a claim.
But you can't sit at an apparatus specification meeting and tell me that you want a top mount pump, but you want a short wheelbase. They don't. And then even the worst of the worst is you tell me you want a 4-door commercial chassis.
Wow.
And then you have a thing that you need to buy a tugboat with because you've just bought a barge and you need something to get it around. It's like, and who buys a 4-door commercial cab? Well, it's the volunteer department out in the sticks.
They can't afford anything else.
Because they can't afford anything else. And so they buy this, but well, wait a minute. What are your roads like? You're in rural America.
We bought some commercial top mounts, 4 of them at one point, to try and stretch our budget. And our apparatus chief, after about 1.5 years, said if you just tape a quarter to the dash and hope somebody'd steal them for the quarter, we'd be better off.
The only other thing I'd say as far as your question on size, I shared this yesterday, is just the E1 Quest cab.
Okay.
It's their new,
I saw pictures of it.
yeah,
Okay.
it looks like a plug in the front.
Okay.
It's basically the same thing it does.
The quantums aren't very pretty even
Yeah.
still. They were hideous when they first came out.
But they.
God, you hate that truck.
Well, I didn't say that. I'm just telling you. Just answer the question. It's 4 inches wider. The cab is 4 inches wider than the body. It's basically a cyclone, engine pumper, but it's 4 inches wider. So, and then they say it's going to give you more room than it doesn't give you more room. The reason they did that is because they had to change the motor because of the emissions issues for the DPF system, and it's at an angle, so that's why it's like that. So there's another example where the manufacturer changed something and making it sound pretty. There's all these reasons why the Quest cab is the newest best thing, but it doesn't give you more room. As a matter of fact, your hands hit the cowling when you're trying to steer. The vision, they say you have all this great vision, you don't.
Oh, enough, Jesus. All right.
That was like the rear steers. Pierce came out with that, and you thought it was a great. They've been doing it for years. The truck that he spoke of was actually, it was a rear, you had a rear mount, right?
Rear mount.
And it was called the Rear Admiral. And,
Oh, interesting.
okay, and people thought that it was because of the ladder being rear mounted, which was new, but it was more because of the rear steer.
They
It was
had
called the
single
rear.
tires on the back that
Yeah.
were balloon tires, and actually the rear axle was the front axle mounted backwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden these guys, 30 years, oh, this is the newest thing. Been doing it for years. You just got to look back in history and know what you're doing. It's nothing new. It's just.
Well, CAFs is just John Dean pumps with foam.
Oh, it is not. It's much more than that. John Dean had 5 stages.
Those were tree sprayers, weren't they?
They were. All right, well, thank you very much for attending
Thank
our
you.
session this afternoon. I think that concludes our comments today.